Welcome to NDTR Spotlight, a show where we highlight former and current NDTRs. And NDTR, if you don't know, stands for Nutritionist Diet Technician Registered. They also go by the credential DTR, which stands for Diet Technician Registered. In order to become an NDTR, you have to graduate from an accredited program, take an exam, and participate in continual education. Welcome to NDTR Spotlight. I'm your host, Marie Lorraine. Today's guest is our first ever nominated on our website. You can nominate a current, former, or future NDTR on our website, NDTR Spotlight, on our contacts page. Our guest today has a BS in Recreation and Leisure and a minor in Journalism. She's currently pursuing her diet technician credential at an associate's program and has plans to get her master's and RDN credential starting in fall of 2021. She has her Serve Safe certification and has experience in food service. She is the president of the Nutrition Club on her campus and a member of Phi Theta Kappa. She has an amazing Instagram called Spinach Head Health, where she talks about anti-diet and all foods fit kind of mentality and has really fun and nutritious recipes and reviews on foods. This is an interview you definitely want to watch if you did not necessarily start off with dietetics or have a different degree or different passion and are interested in entering dietetics. And our guest today will give a really nice perspective on diversity, as she's been to 8 countries, wants to travel to more, and has a very unique and informative perspective on diversity and health. So Jessica, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be interviewed by you today.
Yeah, I'm so happy to get into this interview. So I like to start out with everyone. How did you find out and what interested you in the DTR credential?
Okay, so prior to me starting my program, like you mentioned, my associate's program 2 years ago, I actually didn't know much about dietetics or dietetic technicians. I had kind of tunnel vision on wanting to be a dietitian, and I didn't even know how to kind of start that. But once I made the decision that I wanted to go back to school for something basically entirely different, because I had already had my bachelor's, but I felt like this was more my passion. I guess prior to me starting my program 2 years ago, I didn't know much at all about dietetic technicians. I kind of had tunnel vision on wanting to become a dietitian and still really didn't know the process on doing that either. So I reached out to the director of a associate's program at my local community college, and she basically laid it all out for me. She told me everything about the DTR, how I would be possibly able to continue and pursue RD further from this program, and I was just completely sold. I feel like DTRs are pretty much junior RDs, and I know for sure that I want to continue on and further my studies for registered dietitian in the future. So I personally think it was the best choice for me because I wanted to get my feet wet first before kind of diving completely into obviously all the biology and chemistry classes that you need to take for RD. So this program really kind of let me slowly step into the curriculum and prepare me for what the future curriculum will be for RD. So I think it was the best choice for me.
Okay, so just to be clear, when you signed up for this program, did you know that you wanted to be a dietitian?
I did all my research on Google of what a dietitian was, what they did, and where they could work. So essentially, yes. I did see that the DTRs can work in similar settings. So when I found out that they're kind of a tier below and working under the RD, I thought it was the best decision for me to even see if I wanted to pursue RD. So my plan in the future is, once I get my credential in May, or hopefully when I pass the exam and get my credential in May, is to work as a DTR while I'm getting my master's. And maybe while I'm getting my master's, I realize I really just want to be a DTR, and that's good enough. Or while I'm in my master's, I have my DTR and I'm pursuing an RD. So right now I'm focused on DTR and getting my credential and working.
I love that you're using that flexibility that DTR credential gives, and I think that's one of the best benefits of this credential is there's flexibility. But I do want to ask you, I love that you have the Bachelor's of Science in a completely different field, recreation and leisure. So how did you gain the confidence how did you convince yourself to go back to school to enter a whole nother field after working and having a different bachelor's degree?
Yeah, so I have my bachelor's of science in recreation and leisure, and it's totally different science than what you think of like bio and chemistry. I was taking psychology, sociology classes, all those, and philosophy, all those sciences. So it's very different. I found my passion in nutrition 3 years ago. This is totally off topic, but I was watching so many documentaries on, food, and I'm not going to name names on which ones. There's tons of them out there. You can go on Netflix and watch them. But it just kind of opened my eyes, and I'm not saying it was entirely factual, but, then I started doing my own research, and I wanted to learn more. And I already had so many family members that were always coming to me and asking me what I ate because I was vegetarian at the time. And I didn't know anything about what I was eating, but I, was feeling okay, and I felt like I was eating healthy. So I just wanted to have more knowledge on it. So I started off in the program just wanting to gain more knowledge about nutrition and know the how and the why rather than just what something is. I wanted kind of that why behind everything, or how. So that's the purpose of me going into the program was first to kind of gain more knowledge. And then I did more research, about what dietitians do, how they can change people's lives, and DTRs can change people's lives. And it just became more of a passion of mine. I worked full-time, 40 hours a week when I first started in the program, doing school full-time and working full-time in my other career. And I made it work, and I realized that was absolutely something I wanted to do. I wanted to help people in a different way than my current job had me helping people. So I'm not going to say that my first bachelor's was a bad idea. I think school really prepared me for the course load that I will be taking on now and in the future. So overall, I think my college experience was good, but I do feel like I found my passion a little bit later than my initial, schooling.
Ah, so many good things that you just said there. I so um I had so many questions that came up when you were speaking, and
I
now I'm
have a
like, what
very
were they?
unique, different path on becoming an RD.
I know, it's so good. And I love you were working 40 hours a week. That's wow. So I think I wanted to, oh yes. So you talked about watching the documentaries and getting interested in nutrition. And a lot of those are not necessarily evidence-based per se. It's just people kind of talking about nutrition. And on your Instagram, your Spinach Head Health, you're very thorough in your post. You write the recipes out. You at different places where you got the recipes, and it's like non-judgmental. It's all food mentality. There's like pictures of donuts and then whole wheat food, and then like there's a beautiful diversity on your Instagram. So can you speak to how you plan and how you plan to practice dietetics once you become a DTR and dietitian in the future with that mindset and what that means to you to be anti-diet and all food fit?
Yeah, I think my perspective absolutely changed since starting my associate's program in nutrition. I definitely went in with some knowledge that wasn't fact-based, it wasn't evidence-based, had some substance to it, but was definitely biased based on how I ate. And I slowly and quickly at the same time realized that that doesn't fit everybody, and there is a way to to emphasize healthy eating for different types of people without it being the same for everyone. So I quickly realized that nutrition is not an one size fits all, mentality. It's different, it's individualized, it's unique for everybody. I personally define anti-diet to mean really not supporting diet culture and kind of what that stands for. And when I say diet, I don't mean therapeutic diets. I mean fad diets. So there's definitely this normalized, distorted view of body image and this belief that health is determined on how lean or how muscular you are, or like how quickly you can lose 10 pounds in a week. And I feel that diet culture really kind of perpetuates this unreachable goal, this unsustainable eating pattern that's really just centered around losing weight most of the time without looking at the whole picture for somebody. And like I said, nutrition's not one size fits all. There could be health. Most people can be healthy at their current size or, whatever their goals might be, but it's unique to every individual. And I personally You probably can see it on my Instagram. At first, I started posting just pictures of me cooking without, any substance in the post itself. And I personally now am trying to use my platform to promote more of a lifestyle approach where no food group is really left out, and you can still have your pizza and your cookies and your donuts and enjoy food, but still being conscious of what you're eating and how often you're eating it. You can have both. So that's kind of the mentality that I keep there.
Yeah, and I saw your post on a pizza. It looked really good, and I was reading it, and I was like, oh my gosh, so many different, like, having a variety of different food groups on your pizza. I really enjoyed that post. So with that approach, and I want to bring into your traveling. You've been to 8 countries. How has that influenced, or has it influenced your approach on nutrition?
Sure. So I still am in a Portuguese household, but so Portuguese culture was pretty much driven into my life at a young age. So culture was huge. We traveled to Europe and Portugal specifically every year since I was a kid. So, we were eating, goat cheese and, meats and prosciutto and, bread and butter, and like everything was homemade. And so I had that kind of instilled at me, at a young age. And as a teen and an adult, I loved history, obviously loved food. So I do think that, my ability to travel, obviously not everyone is able to travel at any age. It's definitely something that is, a financial burden at times. Some people can never travel. It doesn't mean you can't be more culturally aware. So I think that, yes, I was lucky, I had an opportunity where my parents brought me to the country. And now I definitely have to plan more of when I can travel and how I can travel and the time that I have. But when I do go to these countries and I travel with my husband, we go to these countries and we pick them because they're just so intriguing to us, and it's a different lifestyle. I would love to visit third world countries and go elsewhere. We've kind of centered ourselves in Europe, but I definitely want to expand that. So I mean, what I'll say in regards to like nutrition and traveling, I feel like traveling at such a young age allowed me to be more open and like empathetic to different people. And I also think that it's helped me be more thoughtful about ethnic food choices in different cultures. And it helps me not ignore the culture when we talk about nutrition, and kind of more so focusing on what we can add to someone's diet rather than take away. Because, I'm someone who loves some of the Portuguese food my mom makes, and no, it might not be the most healthful, choices that she's putting on the table, but again, it's nutrition as a whole rather than just one day. So I think that there's some leeway there, and not ignoring someone's culture, and definitely incorporating it into their nutrition.
Yeah, I hear that. And I like that you brought up the point that you don't necessarily have to travel to have like cultural awareness and be aware that your culture is not the only one on the planet. What advice do you have for someone who has never traveled? Like, what would you say for them to open their eyes to working with clients of a different ethnic group or a different culture?
I think, and I guess I'm going to probably put this very broadly, but what I would say is, in order to be in this field, and no, I'm not technically in this field yet, I don't have my credential, but in order to be in this field, you absolutely have to be empathetic. You have to be open-minded. You have to be someone who is thoughtful and understanding. And I think if you are entering the field with that characteristic and trait to start, I think it'll come naturally to you. I think that if we don't have it right now, we absolutely need it more in the field to diversify dietetics in general. And actually, before we end today, I'll pull up one of my favorite Instagrams, and I think they're actually called Diversify Dietetics, and they're based in New Haven, Connecticut, pretty sure. But I think that we need more in the field. And I mean, if you have never taken a language ever in your life, if you've never immersed yourself in, or with people or with friends of different cultures, I would definitely say at least start like, taking maybe an online language class. Spanish, let's just talk about that, is, one of the number one languages in this country. And I do think that, working in different settings, you'll probably need that in some form. You want to be open, you want to be approachable, and trust is everything with the client or patient. And if you can diversify yourself as much as possible, that's only going to help them. So I'm lucky I have that background. I speak Portuguese. I took Spanish in high school, but it's never too late to learn. And I am kind of the example of that. I mean, I'm going back to school, and I think you can always benefit yourself if you want to continue learning. You can absolutely do it.
Yeah, I think you said that was so eloquently said, and I 100% agree with that. You can keep learning. I worked at WIC for a little bit, and it was a Spanish population, and I had to learn some Spanish. I wasn't good, but yeah, you have to just put yourself out there and be empathetic and willing to learn. So, switching the subject a little bit, there's something super awesome that you were able to have the opportunity to do. Can you tell us about the job that's starting for you really soon?
Yes, so I reached out to you a little bit about it. So it is a new job. It hasn't started yet. It'll be starting actually a little less than 2 weeks. So now I'm getting nervous because I just said that out loud. But essentially, it is a dietetic technician position. So I had been wanting to involve myself really in everything nutrition related, to really strengthen my resume and experience. And but also, aside from that, I really wanted to grow my network. So I have my Instagram, but I also want to grow my personal network aside from LinkedIn. So I started pursuing or looking up volunteer opportunities, like part-time or temp work, while I was still working my full-time job to make it all work. But then I did come across a job on Indeed, and it was with a very reputable hospital in my state. And I came across the job description and the qualifications, and it clearly said it was for a dietetic technician. However, in small print, it did say that they were pursuing students that were in process with their degree if they had a bachelor's degree as well. And that bachelor's degree could have been in anything. So my light bulb went off, and I got so excited, and I applied. I sent my resume. I tweaked my resume. I had my professors look at my resume, and they were kind of crossing their fingers for me. So I applied, and maybe 2 or 3 months later, I got a call. I wasn't expecting it because I hadn't heard back. And after 3 or 4 interviews and a few months later, they did offer me a position. So I will be actually a dietetic technician 1. So it is a tier below the registered dietetic technicians. So the main difference that I saw, they did not send me the job description of the dietetic registered position, but I'm assuming that those positions that have the credential, they will be working more so one-on-one with the patients. Whereas in my role, I'll be helping with the data entry, the menu, and the diet orders, and working with the DTRs. But since I don't have that credential, it's still a tier below. So it's contingent on me getting my credential when I graduate, and moving forward that way. So it's definitely a great start, and it works with my school schedule. So I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, that's the best experience you can get, working in the hospital. It's a clinical position, is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
clinical position.
Yeah, so working in the hospital, working right alongside diet technicians, and that's just going to help you as you progress and pursue your RDN.
Yes, definitely.
Such a good opportunity. Can you give us, I know it was a while ago, but were there any questions in the interview that kind of stood out to you that you kind of were able to handle?
Yeah, no, I remember that interview because I loved the interview, and it was off the cuff. And it went from, why did you choose this profession? Why do you want to be a DTR? And why do you want to work for us? To, can you tell me about apples and what's in them and why they're good? And can you tell me about your favorite fruits and vegetables and why? And if you had to choose a combination of foods, what would they be and why would you recommend them? So it was a whole spectrum of information. And then my final interview was a Zoom call with the clinical director and I believe another RD. And they were asking more technical questions about therapeutic diets. So kind of testing my knowledge to see how much they could give me off the bat, working and to start out with. They do train you, but they want you coming in with working knowledge.
Yeah, that's so true. I know in most interviews for diet technicians, and even I've sat in on some dietitian interviews during my internship, and they ask the technical questions. You have to know your stuff to get the job.
Yeah.
So
Definitely intimidating, but then when they ask you, you realize how much you do know and how much you've learned. So it makes you feel good. It makes you give yourself a little pat on the back.
yeah, it's like, oh, you have to pull this stuff out where you're like, oh, it's there. I'm learning something. What I'm paying for
Right.
is paying off. So going off of that, what has been the most annoying or frustrating or challenging thing about pursuing this credential and the DTR credential?
No one knows who we are. I feel like nobody knows who a DTR is, and sometimes people don't know who a dietitian is. I mean, just from my small group of friends and family, I had to sometimes describe what either of those were. My dad still thinks that once I graduate in May, I'm going to be a nutritionist, and I kind of want to put him on. He, again, big Portuguese family, so I don't want to dare correct him, but yeah, I feel like that's the biggest thing. There's really not too much information. That's why I really loved your platform, and I saw it right away, because there's really no platform where NDTRs can find more information or resources, and also it being kind of a normalized, new career path. So I feel like dietitians don't really know too much about them unless they work alongside them. Sometimes in clinical is where you'll see a lot of DTRs. So that alone, and I got that firsthand. I was at a doctor's appointment, my physical, and I told my doctor I was going back to school, and she said, "In what?" And I said, "Dietetics." And she had no idea what I was talking about. She said, "In what?" And I said, "Dietitian." She's like, and I said, nutritionist, and light bulbs. Oh, like that's what it is. So I feel like a lot of people resonate more with the nutritionist label. And I feel like that's the main reason why they added it to both credentials, is to kind of, you know, make it easier for people to understand. So I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Not everyone can really make the connection with terminology, but I feel like that's the biggest thing, is that it's not as well known as it will be. But I do think that now that the master's degree will be required by 2024, I feel like we're going to see a lot more DTRs coming out, especially with so many students doing an undergrad in nutrition and dietetics and maybe don't want to pursue their master's right away. They'll become a DTR and take that exam. So I think you're going to see a lot more of them in the future.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And so I think, again, more DTRs are coming. What advice would you have to someone thinking about doing the DTR credential?
I would say, and I can only relate it back to myself, if you are someone who is semi-passionate, or wants to learn more about nutrition but is not sure if you can financially start in an RD program, I think that my program, being from an associate's level and at a community college, but it also is accredited, is definitely more financially feasible for someone who wants to pursue a career in nutrition with a credential, but not completely starting RD yet. I feel like my program really prepared me for what the RD curriculum would be, and it really has pushed my limits. And I think in one of your previous interviews with another NDTR, she had said, or she's currently in RD, but when she was doing her NDTR exam and her RD exam comparatively, they're both very, very similar. So I feel like that's even prepared me more so for the RD exam if I pursue that. And I feel like it's a very respectable credential. Essentially, when you get this credential, you are a nutrition professional, you're in the field. And I consider it you being a junior dietitian working below that dietitian. I will also say that a big difference in why I chose my associate's program versus me going for another bachelor's and pursuing DTR that way was the supervised practice that comes alongside my program. So a lot of people don't know within the field that if you graduate with a bachelor's degree and you decide to take the DTR exam rather than pursuing RD right away, you don't have supervised practice under your belt, which is fine. A lot of people are doing very well with that and they pass the exam. But I do feel like it's only more beneficial for you, at least in my program, that you're getting 450 hours of supervised practice, and that's required by ASEND, the Accreditation Council. So, I'll be graduating with a great credential, a very respectable credential, and I'll be a professional in the field with having this, hands-on on-site experience and supervised practice. So I think that's just wonderful. So if you're really toying with, should I go for my bachelor's, should I go for my associates, there's so many 2-year programs for this credential, and it really allows you to make sure that, you know, this is the right field for you. And then you can pursue your RD afterwards, like I'm doing. So I definitely think it's a good step in the career.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing up that difference between the bachelor's and the associate's degree. I think that supervised practice is so beneficial, and that'll even help you more you'll be used to the dietetic internship. You'll be like, I've done this, I know what it's like, and you'll be able to just gain so much more just from prior experience. So thank you for bringing that up. So we're kind of going to close out here. I just want to ask, do you have any resources that have been helpful for you as you've been pursuing your credential?
Yes. So I don't have a huge following on my Instagram, but obviously eatright.org, great resource for anyone who's looking for nutrition information. But I love sharing updates on my Instagram about my DTR internship, and like you had mentioned, recipes. Sometimes I'm doing reviews, and of course all the memes. So there are so many great memes out right now that are circulating on Instagram, and that's taking up way too much of my time, but I love them. So I would definitely encourage anyone who's listening to this to, you know, go on Instagram if you have one and follow some really great RDs that have different platforms too, like TikToks, and they're trying to find creative ways to get more nutrition information out there. So people I really love are Steph Grasso, there's the Artsy Palette, you of course, you're a great resource, and then also like Dietitian Deanna. Those are just 3 or 4, but there's so many more. Something I do on my main page, but I'll be switching to Spinach Head Health, is Nutrition Trivia Tuesdays. So I like to put some facts that help me study because I have a DTR exam coming up in the spring. So I've been putting up some questions for like my following and my followers to, you know, check off if they get it right or wrong. And it's just fun. I usually at the end say, was that fun? And everyone says yes. So I do it every Tuesday. So I'll probably start doing that on the Spinach Head Health page. But yeah, I think that's it.
That's great. So people can reach you on Spinach Head Health?
Yes. And that's a oh my gosh. And that's what am I trying to say? Oh, public. I keep wanting to say private. Wow. So yeah, that's a public page, so you can DM me or follow me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jessica. Any last minute thoughts, anything else you want to share before we close out?
No, I think we covered a lot. So I thank you so much for your time today too, and for reaching out.
Yeah, thank you for everything you said. Super helpful. If you enjoyed this interview, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, and go follow Jessica on Spinach Head Health. Do those Trivia Tuesdays and just see what she's doing. She's doing awesome things. And I will link all of the resources she said down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next Thursday.